Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming along, and thank you for your patience. We are sorry that we have had a few technical difficulties here. This is Michael Tro, and I am not David Jalen, who you are expecting to hear from. As you can see on your screens now, you can see what is a presentation, but some of the technical difficulties were that we were unable to show it in the full light that we wanted to, so we do apologize for that slightly. However, if you are not able to see the screen, do pop a note into the chat window and we will be able to rectify that as soon as possible. But my goodness, I won't keep any longer because you've been here all day. I was asked to come along and introduce David, and I was really delighted to have the opportunity to do so. This is going to be quite a fantastic webinar. The content I have been made privileged to see a quick snapshot of it is extremely good. So I know you're in for one sharp learning curve when it comes to copywriting today. But without further ado, I wanted to introduce David. David is an extremely good friend of mine, and he is, as far as I'm concerned, a #1 expert in this field of copywriting. And we're going to go through a lot of what copywriting actually is very shortly. But if you don't know, David Jalen is a direct response copywriter and product launch strategist. He's been personally trained by the product launch formula inventor himself, Jeff Walker, which is quite impressive nonetheless. David's launch strategies and copy, I know, have been responsible for 5 6-figure launches for authors, service professionals, and small business owners. He's been trained by and has worked with best-selling author Michael Port. Michael Port himself said that David is the correct and right choice when it comes to this area of business. David has also worked alongside Michael Port and has become one of his most trusted Book Yourself Solid Elite certified coaches. You may or may not know, and I hope that you know, that David is also the host of the Amplified Expert podcast, where every episode is dedicated to helping coaches, consultants make more money, get more clients, and spread their message faster. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. David Jalen.
Oh, well, thank you, Michael. Can everybody hear me okay?
I most certainly can. So
I tell you what, for starters, first of all, thank you, Michael. I mean, Michael Tro is a great friend of mine, and he is a sales master. This guy who is speaking to you has been voted to the top 100 experts in sales to follow on Twitter. That is a massive accomplishment. Absolutely, sir. So everybody needs to go check out Michael Tro. Not right now, after the presentation, but Michael, thanks for the introduction. I'm so glad you're here with me. And folks, I have to tell you, I am so deeply sorry for the problems that we have encountered. You know, this is technology in 2014, right? I mean, and I'm not making excuses because it stinks and I feel bad. So I'm really sorry for wasting some of your time. I'm going to do my best to make it up to you quickly and efficiently, and by the time you leave here, I want you to really feel good about your time spent here today. You know, today is National Tequila Day, so I tell you, after the difficulties we've had on the front end here with the technology, I will be ready to indulge once we're done. So here's what to expect today. We will go for about an hour now, you know, maybe an hour and 10, okay? I'm going to do my best to respect your time, but I also want to give you as much as I possibly can, okay? We will take questions at the end. You should see a comment box. If all technology is working on your end, you should see a box where you can ask questions and you can make comments. I hope you do, in fact, see that because, again, at the end here, I want to take your questions and answer them as best I possibly can. And I will answer those questions towards the end, okay? So hang out with me. Let's get through the material, and then I will be happy to answer your questions. Okay, you will leave, my goal is that you will leave here with a new perspective of what copywriting is and what it can do for you in your business. It's really important because I think there's a lot of tarnished ideas about what copywriting is, and I want to hopefully give you a whole different perspective. So you will have ideas you can implement right away in your business. Okay, here's what not to expect. I should have put on, if I had any clue that we were going to have these issues, I should have put not to expect great technology to come together here. But anyway, beyond that, don't expect a beautifully designed presentation. because it's really not. What can I tell you? But the content is really good, and I think is really going to serve you. Don't expect a pitch fest. Okay, I know a lot of these webinars, and I'm not opposed to it, by the way. Webinars are a great tool to sell stuff, but I'm not going to hammer you with some big program at the end, and spend half our time selling you something. Okay, so that's just not going to happen today. My goal is not to overload you with too much information and a ton of templates and all this stuff. Here's the thing. This is the challenge. This is probably the truth of why I've never really done a training like this before. Because the subject of copywriting is actually so big, there's so much information, it's really hard to try to think about how to narrow it down in something that's consumable and usable in such a short amount of time. I've done my best to accomplish that here, and hopefully I have in fact done it. Okay. The other thing you don't want to expect is don't expect to be a world-class copywriter when we are done here today. Okay. Obviously, to be really good, it takes a lot of practice. But the good news is most people stink. Okay. Most people are horrible about the stuff we're going to go over here today. And if you can just pull out some nuggets and put them to use in your business, you're going to be far, far ahead of so many other people out there. All right. So what is copywriting and why is it important to you? All right. Well, I want to talk specifically today more about direct response copywriting. And really, direct response copywriting is copy designed to lead the reader or viewer, consumer, to a decision in that moment. Okay? Hence the term direct response. Okay? Now, some people in sales would say that that decision should always be to buy from you. I don't agree with that. I think the decision is to you want to get the person off the fence, okay? Because, again, I am a student of Michael Port, and those of you who are as well, you probably buy into the red velvet rope policy and that you are only meant to serve certain people, okay? So there's no reason why you would want to convince people who aren't right for you to buy your product, your service, your program. Okay, what we do want, though, is we want them to make a decision either to not buy from you or to go ahead and engage. And of course, it's not always buying. Sometimes it's just taking an action like opting into your email list for something free, etc. All right. Now, from Robert Collier, this is a great quote. It's been quoted a lot, but if you haven't heard it, it's really important. You must enter the conversation that's already going on in your prospect's mind. Okay, that's a key concept to understand when we are talking about copywriting and creating an atmosphere that helps seduce people and move people through a process to take an action. Okay, we must get inside their head, and this is not easy to do. We're so wired to stay on our own head and what we think is important and what we want to talk about, and it's really important for us to get into our prospects' heads. All right, copywriting is not content marketing. Okay, I had a little podcast recently that talked about this. And content marketing is very valuable, but it's different. Okay, it's different. Copywriting, again, as I just mentioned, is geared to, the sole purpose is to get that reader, that consumer, that viewer to make a decision. Okay, content marketing is what it is. It's creating content that is informational, that is valuable for your prospects and your clients to consume. Two different things. Now, here's the good news. As you become a better copywriter, you will become a better content creator. So really, really important. All right. So becoming a better copywriter and recognizing good copy should be important to you because it will make you money. That's why I think you need this. But, again, you've got to think about it in terms of what it means to your business. Okay? It will make you money. Now, what we want goes well beyond money, right? Okay, what you want, because if you know anything about my work or interested in any of the content I put out there, then you probably know that I tend to work best with people who are interested in transforming lives, interested in changing people for the better. But let's face it, money is a very, very valuable resource that allows us to do that, to reach more people, to build more infrastructure in our business. So it's very important, and becoming a better copywriter, or at least recognizing good copy, so that when you hire people and you work with others, you have a clue what's going on. It's important. It will change your business. All right. Big question. Why should people buy from you? This is where it all starts. And we're going to get a little bit in, and I'm going to move quickly here because I know we're late. But before we get into actually what we can do to improve our copy from a tactical perspective, we need to touch on the mental aspects of this, the emotional aspects of this. It's really important to understand this first. And you've got to answer that question, why should people buy from you? It starts in your brain. That's where it all begins. It starts with you and your own mind in order to answer this question. And, it ultimately comes down to what makes you unique. How are you different? How do you stand out? You've heard this stuff before, right? It's a noisy world out there. And in my podcast, I talked about a concept called content shock. Okay, it's where people are inundated with so much stuff, they're starting to just shut down. So standing out to the right group of people is really, really important. Okay, you know this, but the question is, how do you do it? Okay, what does in fact make you different from all the other people out there that do what you do? Because if you don't stand out, then ultimately you're a commodity. Right? You get judged on price. Somebody will do the comparison, and that's it. And you don't want that. At least I don't think you want that. Walmart does it really well, but most of us that are personality-driven businesses, we're coaches, we're consultants, we're service professionals. That's not what we're looking to accomplish. Okay. So, big question. Again, I'm going to move quick here, but I want to know what you stand for. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What stirs intense emotions deep inside you? This is where this begins. And you may ask yourself right now, why is this important to copywriting? Because copywriting is about really deep, visceral communication with the people you're trying to reach. And in order to have that kind of deep, visceral communication, you've got to know what the heck you want. What really gets you up, what gets you excited, what gets you intense. Because the problem is, there's too many people out there doing what you do right now and doing everything else out there, just go from industry to industry, that are very vanilla. Very vanilla, okay? They're trying not to offend. They're trying to fit in. They play lip service to standing out. They seem to understand the concept intellectually. But in reality, they're trying to figure out, what all their other peers are doing and how they can do it like them and how they can blend in. And here's the reason why, and it gets into some deep psychology, and I'll move on, but the thing is that and this is just human nature, and we have to work with it, we are actually very afraid of what people will think about us. And that's why either consciously or more than likely unconsciously, we don't really strongly stand up for what we believe in. So I want you to own and express what you believe in. I want you to own and express your interests and your quirks. What do you love? I mean, do you love wine? Do you love sports? Do you love knitting? What are your quirks? I mean, like for me, I love, old cheesy and weird 80s music, a lot of people wouldn't want to mention that, because they might think weird. But, hey, that's it. You want to express who you are. Again, we toss around this terminology about being fully self-expressed, and then so few people really do it. So few people, not you don't have to be weird, obviously, but but who are you deep inside? And do you really express that in your business? And this will translate to the copy that you write. Are you translating who you are, weaving it into the copy, into the sales pages you create, into the videos you create? Okay? Another big part of this is developing and cultivating and sharing your story. Okay, what is your story? Well, you start in the timeline of your life wherever it's relevant. Okay, but you want to be open. You want to share the successes and the failures, the pleasures and the pains. Story is what helps people connect. Story is what engages people to want to know more. Okay, the real magic happens when your story about where you came from, the experiences you've had, when it intersects with your prospect story. You want to know where real, true likability and trust come from? That's it. Because here's the truth of the matter. We tend to like people who are like us. We tend to like people who believe like us. And when you can intersect your past, it could be your past 10 years ago, it could be your past 10 months ago, but when you can take some of the events, the pieces of stories that have shaped you, and you can really own them and weave those in your business, don't stick them in a closet somewhere. You know, I was interviewing Nick Nanton recently on my podcast, and he talked about the fact that he was working with this bankruptcy attorney that actually at one time went bankrupt in his life, and he didn't tell any of his clients. Nick Nanton was like, "Are you crazy? Are you absolutely crazy?" You know, he didn't want to. You know, he wanted to look like the big, powerful attorney and not look like this guy who, you know, who had a weak moment, a weak time in his life as well. You know, and Nick is like, you know, this is what will connect you. That's the part of your story where people will say, this guy can relate to me. He understands where I've been. You know, so again, likability and trust. Don't just throw those words around. Think about where they come from. All right, who are your prospects and what motivates them to act? All right, this is a huge subject, and again, we've got to roll. But here's the thing that's important here. Is, you know, you've heard it all about target market and demographics and all that stuff, but I want to get, again, more into the psychology here, okay? Because it continues. It started in your brain, and it continues in their brains, okay? That's where this begins. That's where this unfolds, is in your minds, okay? Here's the thing you really got to get. This is a very, very important concept. And even if you've got nothing else from this presentation today, if you can really get this, okay, it will transform your ability to connect and move your prospects, to move leads to prospects, prospects to clients. We are emotional creatures, and we make our decisions based upon emotions, not our intellect or logic. Argue all you want. There's plenty of facts out there that proves it. Okay, so now here's the thing. Now we're so smart, so we do tend to validate our decisions based upon logic. But make no mistake about it, the decision was in process of being made based upon emotional reasons. Really important to get this, okay? This is a quote from Perry Marshall, who is a marketing genius. I mean, he's an AdSense guy, a Facebook ads guy. But anyway, he says, yes, this really actually is true. Engineers, accountants, executives, attorneys, housewives, and ministers, PhDs, delivery truck drivers, and farmers, and butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers, we all fundamentally make all of our decisions based on emotion, not logic. Okay? So, stop trying to move prospects with a bunch of features and logic. Okay? Features come into play. They're important. It's good to know what they are. Okay? And whatever it is that you are selling, whether it be a service, a product, whatever. But that's not what moves people to buy from you. Okay? It's not what moves them. And we'll get more into what moves them as we move along here. But stop hammering people away with all the features about you know, your product. You know, it's bigger, it's shinier, it doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter. All right, appeal to their emotions. I think the point is made. Okay, here's the thing: you want to give them what they want, not what you think they need. Big difference, you know. And I've been guilty of this. You know, I have created content in the past that I just thought was a good idea. You know, it's just a good idea. But ultimately, we've got to get in our prospects' minds at a level to where we know what they want, because what they want is not what they want is what matters, not what we think they need, and possibly even not what they really need. They're going to go after what they want. All right. You ever heard this term pareidolia? This is an old photo. I don't know how well you can see it, especially considering our tech challenges have reduced the size of the screen. But, you know, I don't know about you, but when I look at this old photo, I see this big giant head of Jesus, or, you know, you can make it whoever it is, maybe a hippie from the 60s, kind of between these two people. And it's interesting because once you see that, it's hard, very hard, not to see it. You know, now maybe some of you see the fact that it's actually this little kid with a hood on. But anyway, here's the point. Point is that people see what they want. People see, we all do. We see what we want. An important point here, and I will pick this up again, is that they don't care about you or your product. Okay? This is important to understand. They don't care about you or your product. Nobody cares about me or my product. On a human level, of course we care about each other, but ultimately we care about our own self-interest. And I know that sounds so horrible, but the truth of the matter is that that is what helps people, what guides people, what gets people to act and make decisions. All right. Now, 4 words that everybody loves. You, new, free, and guaranteed. Those are great words, okay? We love to read you, and when you are creating copy, you want to use you a lot. And by you, I mean obviously the person who's consuming the information, right? The worst mistake any of us can make is to just go on and on and on about us, okay? Or to speak too much in third person. Okay, speak in the first person, use you a lot, talk to the self-interest of the person who's consuming your information. Okay, now book, I recommend you pick up at some point. It's a handy book. Words That Sell by Richard Bann. It's not very expensive, I think it's like 10, 11 bucks, but it is great. Because here's the thing, when we write, we have to, entertainment is part of it. Okay, interesting. Boring writing, boring copy kills any momentum. So interchanging words, finding new phraseology, you know, a lot of action, verbs and adjectives. That's really where you want to go, and this book will help you do that. So at some point, pick that up. All right. Now here's something that is very interesting. Now, and again, we're going to go through this quickly, but all humans have 5 core drives that influence their decisions. Okay. Now, if you study, you know, desires and you know, core desires and drives, you know, some people claim there's up to 16. You know, Tony Robbins has what, the 6 human needs. So there's different variations of this. Okay. But the point of the matter is that we have core emotions that drive our decisions, and this is really important. Okay. What I'm giving you today is taken by this guy, Josh Kaufman. And no, that's not Josh Kaufman from what is it, The Voice or whatever. I think there's a guy by the same name from that show. But this guy is an author. This book is a great book, highly recommended. But we're going to go through quickly into the 5 drives. Okay, drive to acquire. Drive to acquire. Okay, it's the desire to collect material or immaterial things like cars, influence, blah blah blah. Okay, some people will just cut right to the chase, and they'll call this greed. I mean, if you look at some of the human core emotions, some people just call it greed. You know, Josh is a little more politically correct about it here, so not to upset too many people. But that's one of the major drives. Hey, and by the way, if you really want to go back and consume the information we're going through today, I will make available to you a PDF, okay, of all this stuff. Okay, so hang in there, and I will make that available to you. Okay, the second drive is the drive to bond, the desire to be loved and feel valued in our relationships with other people. Really important one, okay? Really important. So number 1 was to, you know, our drive to acquire. Okay, this is our drive to bond. Okay, we want to be loved. We want to feel loved. You know, love is a very powerful, and again, you can even throw, you know, sex into this. Again, he's using more palatable phraseology, but you know, again, we know that sex is a big stimulator, and will certainly get people to move to action. Okay, drive to learn, desire to satisfy our curiosity, and you know, as human beings, we're curious. We want to know more. We want to learn more. We want to experience more. Okay, a drive to defend. This is a biggie. You know, some of this stuff gets into a little uncomfortable territory for some people, but you know, this is a big human drive. You know, our desire to protect ourselves. You know, it's just wired into our DNA and our loved ones and our property. I mean, that's you know, it's just it's there, and it is very powerful. It is very powerful. So you know, anybody who can speak to that in their offerings certainly can make a connection. Okay, number 5 is drive to feel. And I guess I kind of messed that up because sex probably should have went into this one. But anyway, drive to feel, desire for many emotional experiences such as pleasure or excitement. Okay, so again, we want to experience these things, and we want to experience we want emotional experiences. That's ultimately what we're looking for. All right, I want to take you through quickly. I could have just inundated you with templates and formulas. Excuse me while I get a little drink, but I didn't think that was valuable. Okay, I really wanted to make sure that we really got the psychology right here, because if you can get that right, the formulas come. It's to me, when you just throw formulas, templates at people, it's kind of putting the cart before the horse. So I want to take you through a little sales system that I created. That what's good about what we're going to go through, and we're going to go through quickly. And again, I will also make this available to you. So even though I will move quickly through it, you'll have a chance to go back and study it in more depth. Okay, but you can use this B.R.I.G.E, and as you can see, it's an acronym. So I'm going to take you through these steps, and you can use this almost anywhere. You can use it in sales copy. You can use it when creating a video script. You can use it while speaking in front of crowds. So anyway, with no further ado, let's move. Okay, so I called this the Copywriting Island Simple Sales System. I was sitting at the beach and thinking about this stuff, and so anyway, long story short, this idea came to me, and I came home and started jotting it down. So Copywriting Island's a beautiful little island right off the coast where I live here in Central Florida. So hence the name. Okay, so you can see there in the picture, and we'll get into it more in this one. Okay, you see two islands, right? And normally I would take you through a nice visualization, but again, I want to move us through here. So just kind of bear with me here. But Island A is already have island. This is where your prospect is. Okay, this is where they are frustrated, where they're feeling pain, where they're feeling disappointment. The problem is they're comfortable. Okay, and we all deal with this as humans. Okay, we have something we're not conditioned, we're not happy about. But we're also afraid of change. We're also afraid of moving away from what we know, what we're comfortable with. Okay, and that's the challenge. It's the inertia. It's what keeps people from acting. Okay, so in the middle is B, and it's the bridge. And this is you. This is your product, your service. This is what will get them over to Copywriting Island, where they want to go. Okay. And like I said, they don't care about you or your product, okay? That's why it's actually very helpful to look at it as a bridge. All they care about is that it's going to get them to where they want to go. And where they want to go is to C, which is can have, or Copywriting Island. And that's where, they can look across this body of water and they can see what they want, what they really want. What do they really desire in their life? Is it to be pain-free? Is it to buy a big house? Is it to build a business of their dreams? Is it to create a fantastic non-for-profit organization? What is it that they see on that island that they want so bad that gives them the freedom, that gives them the lifestyle they want, but they just can't get there, and they're so frustrated by it? All right, so that's really a key setup here as we move through this. Okay, the first one, again, I'm not going to read everything here. I will give you this information, but the first one is to build trust. Okay, so this is where to keep this visualization moving, this is where you meet them where they are on Already Have Island. Okay, and I like to say that trust and credibility, likability is worthless if you're trying to be liked and trusted by everybody. See, that's where, again, a watered-down brand comes from, a watered-down message. If you want everybody to like you, you're not going to get anywhere. So you want to be trusted and liked by the people you're meant to serve, by the people who you have some aligned interests with. Okay, so like I said earlier, be true to who you are, express who you are, amplify your quirks and what you stand for. All the things we talked about earlier, and this is where you make that connection. Okay. And some people will hate you for it, some people will love you for it, but ultimately, this is where that relationship begins. You're going to use stories, like I told you, get clear on your story, weave it into everything you do, and use the same language they use, which, again, if you're connecting with people you're really meant to serve, there should be nothing fake about that. That should be very easy to do, okay? Let's move on. The next one is the R, and reveal the roadblock, okay? This is where you're still with them over on Already Have Island, but you want to begin to articulate to them, what's keeping them from where they want to go. You want to put a magnifying glass on what stands in their way and what keeps them from getting to Caladesi Island. This is where you really want to start to identify the specific emotions they are feeling and use the same words that they use in describing those challenges and expressing those emotions. Okay? And one of the big things you want to do, and again, a lot of people shy away from this, but I tell you, this is really important. You really want to begin to convey and ask them, what the consequences will be if they do not get to Caladesi Island, if they do not get to their destination. What will their life be like? If they don't make these changes, what will it be like? What will it do to their dreams, their relationships, everything they want? Some people will say, don't take them there. Don't take them to that kind of place. But I beg to differ. That is what will move them. Uncovering your prospects' real fear is powerful and will motivate 85% of them to take action. Very important. Inspire their desires. See, this is where we get to do what we want to do, and that's to start to paint the picture of the bridge that you are creating. Okay, this is when you can start to let in on the fact that you have some solutions here that they may need, they may want, and that you are building something that will help them get to where they want to go. And as I said before, people don't buy for rational, intellectual reasons. Okay, you got to keep that in mind. Okay, so continue to tap in those emotions, and now begin to focus on how good it will feel when they realize what they want. Make it real for them. Future pace them. Let them see themselves in that place of enjoying what they have been after, what they really want, what their heart desires. Okay? And one good question to ask yourself is, what does my prospect need to hear from me to feel good about buying? All right, here's the D, and detail the benefits. You hear about objections and benefits, and here's where we're going to tie it together. Okay, tell them in detail how your bridge will get them to Caladesi Island. Okay, this is where you really start to lay out the specifics, the benefits of how you're going to get them there, to get them where they want to go. Okay, because right now they're inspired, but they still have objections. This is where that fear begins to come up for our prospects, and they start to question about whether they should make this decision. You want to begin to uncover their objections. You do that through questions. Now, obviously, if you're not in person and you're doing this through copy, you want to anticipate questions ahead of time. Okay, and we know what the biggest questions are. It's too much money. I don't have enough time. But go through what the questions are that your prospects will have, and you want to work those into your copy and answer those questions. Each benefit that you have should counter an objection. Okay, and this is, if you do this effectively, this is what establishes value for your offer. Okay, so really, really important. I'm going to keep moving. All right, this is a big one. This is the G, and this is the guarantee satisfaction. Okay, this is where you're going to promise them that they are not going to fall off your bridge and drown. Okay, because that's what they're thinking. Well, this person is going to get me up on the bridge. I'm going to fall off, and my life is going to be worse off for it. Okay, fear is the biggest reason why people don't buy. Period. Okay, they fear that they will make a mistake by buying from you, and that they'll be ridiculed for it. And nobody likes to be ridiculed. Nobody likes to be embarrassed, and this is what keeps people from buying. So it's really important. It's amazing to me how many people still resist putting a real, true guarantee behind whatever it is they're offering. I mean, I had a client in the past who, he had a great product. We put together a great campaign for him, and he just resisted guaranteeing what he did. And I finally said to him, I said, if you don't believe in what you do enough to guarantee it, to guarantee the satisfaction of the person who purchases it, then maybe you shouldn't be selling it. You must remove the risk. You must give them a way out. And if you ignore this, it will be at your own peril. Important thing to remember, though, is you're not guaranteeing results. You can't guarantee someone's going to make $10,000 next month. Okay, guarantee their satisfaction, that they're happy with what you've delivered to them. And of course, this is a great place to also use testimonials and endorsements. You can use this stuff throughout. I happen to place it here because that social proof of people who endorse what you do, people who have consumed what you do, is really important. And I'll be honest with you, this is an area I have done a real miserable job of. I mean, if you go to my website right now, I don't know that I really have any testimonials on there, and it's not a good excuse at all because I have a bunch of them on file. It's just when I built the new site, I just never got them up. Terrible excuse. So don't do that. So find them, get them up, and now I promise, now that I've made it public, I will get mine up on my site as well. All right. The E in bridge, extend the offer. It's funny, again, how many people fall down here. They go through this whole process, and they really create connection. They talk about the offer, they counter objections with great benefits. They go through the whole process. They even extend, they have this great guarantee, but then they never really get around to extending the offer. And again, a lot of folks are really just fearful of doing it because we're fearful of rejection. Somebody's going to say no. They're not going to. They're not going to want to buy from us, and it hurts our feelings, but you must really get over it. You really must, because it's just the nature of life. I mean, a lot of people will turn you down, but the people who accept, those are the people whose lives you can change. And this is where, again, to keep our little visual going, this is where you're ready to invite them across your bridge. Okay, you've done your job. You extend your hand. A lot of people use the word close, a lot of salespeople now, but I prefer to use the word extend, or even expand, as in expanding the relationship. And this is where you say, hey, you would make a good client. I would love to work with you, and extend your hand and move forward. Okay. You have to have a call to action. And I'm going to show you as we move through this here how you want to weave that in everything you do. You want to have a call to action with just about everything you produce. Okay? And the call to action doesn't have to be a big complex thing like, buy my super expensive program. Okay, call to action could be, that I create a new video I want you to watch. Get them to watch that video. Call to action is any action that you would like for the consumer to take. Okay? But here's the thing, though, especially when we're talking about monetized offers. And again, I hear a lot of people resist this, and I'm telling you, resist at your own peril, because you have to give people a reason to act. Okay, I know there's been a lot of flack given to the term scarcity. Don't put scarcity out there. Nobody likes it. It upsets people. Again, I can only go to the psychology and what my experience over the years has taught me works. You don't have to be a jerk about it, and you don't want to lie about it. Okay, be real about it. Be real about it. I can only work with 20 people. That's it. I can't work with 100. I can't work with 300. It'd be nice if I could, but in this program I can work with 20 people. Okay, that's scarcity, and it's real. It's built in. The next 20 people who sign up, I can work with. Okay, so we'll move on from there, but just remember, you have to give people a reason to act, or they won't act. Remember that. All right. This is an important one right here. As you begin to get ready to settle in and start to produce some great copy that's going to move people to action, I want you to stop being so smart. I want you to quit being so darn smart. Here's the problem, and this is actually, I'm not even kidding about this. I'm very serious. A lot of smart people have trouble creating great sales messages, because their intellect often gets in the way, and they lose sight of how people actually consume information. So let's talk about it. When creating copy or video scripts, remember to make it easy to read. Okay, 5th or 6th grade level. That's probably why I've become a good copywriter. No funny comments there, Michael Tro. Okay, you want to keep it easy to read. Because even smart people, that's how we tend to consume stuff. Especially nowadays, we have to consume stuff so fast that we need that level for us to get through enough of it. Okay. Here's another one. Keep paragraphs short and everything visually appealing. Okay. Obviously, here we're talking about written copy. Short paragraphs. Okay. You're not back in the English literature class. Okay. You want short, brief. Again, throw the laws of grammar out. Now, I'm not telling you to purposely misspell words and stuff like that, but you got to remember, and it kind of gets into the next point here, is that this is about a conversation. Very important for you to remember that. Conversation. Think about that all the time when you're writing copy. I'm having a conversation. And I'm not having a conversation with 1,000 people. I'm having a conversation with one person. Okay, so visually appealing. We don't like to look at these long paragraphs, and read them. But if you chop them up in short little bites, punchy bites, much easier to consume and much easier on the eyes. Okay, and here we go. Here's the 4 C's. Be clear, concise, and conversational. but not too creative and not too clever. So I guess we'll throw in a fifth C. Okay, I'm a creative guy, so sometimes that I have to watch that because, and by creative I mean that we're putting copy out there that is so cute, so clever that it's like a riddle somebody has to solve. Okay, that's not what you want when you're trying to move somebody to take an action. Okay, people won't take the time for it. Okay, if you want to do writings that are cute, clever, and creative, that are outside of what you're trying to do when you're trying to move somebody to action, totally cool. But just keep that in mind. All right, let's talk briefly about what you need to know about headlines. Okay, now again, there's formulas out there. There's all kinds of different things you can jump into, and it gets confusing. So I just want to give you some things that I think will be useful for you. Okay, David Ogilvy, who is a great advertising master, copywriters quote him left and right, but he says on the average 5 times as many people read the headline as read the body copy. When you have written your headline, you have spent 80 cents out of your dollar. Okay, and that still holds true today. It still holds true today. Excuse me while I get a little sip. Your headline, I mean, think about it, it's just common sense. If your headline doesn't get people to take the next step by reading the next sentence, the next paragraph, then you're lost right there. You've already lost it. So keep in mind that practically everything you create needs a headline. Okay, headline's not about the sales page, although that's part of it. Your sales pages for your products, your programs, great headline, but also your landing pages. Okay, and by landing pages, I'm even kind of throwing in your home page there. We'll talk about more about that in a few minutes. But again, people when and obviously here we're talking specifically about web copy. But when people show up, they need to know they're in the right place, and they're only going to give you 3 seconds to let them know. Okay, so that's it. So again, headlines is the solution to that. A headline is what will tell that person immediately, this is for you, and this is what it can do for you. And then they'll know if they should read more. Okay, so sales pages, landing pages. Landing pages, I'm including a home page in that. I'll explain more about that later. Also, of course, landing pages for your webinars and for other invites that you have, other programs. Email subject lines. Okay, think about every email subject line that you write as a little headline, because it indeed is. Again, we have a million pieces of email in our inbox all the time, and if you want yours read, then you have to create headlines that are interesting and intriguing to the people you're trying to reach. Okay, blog post titles, video titles, you get the idea. Okay, all right. Great headlines get you to stop. They grab your attention, and they hit one of your core emotional drivers hard. Okay, that's what they do. So we talked about the core emotional drivers, and that's what what a great headline will do. It will stop you, so you'll look at it again, and it will hold your attention for a couple of seconds, and that's going to hit one of your emotional desires or drivers. Okay, the purpose of a headline is to hook your reader, and I already mentioned this, so they want to know more, period. That's the purpose, to hook them so they want more. All right, so just keep this in mind. Again, I'm not going to throw a bunch of formulas out to you and everything right now, okay? But include a big juicy result that your prospect wants, or the fear-inducing pain that they want to be free from. It's really hard to do both, but and there's no right or wrong which one to use. You just have to try different things out. But what do they want? Include that in the headline. And of course, what they want, it may not be overarching. It could be should be very specific to whatever it is you're offering in that moment, right? Or what fear that they're trying to get away from. Okay, here are a few examples. There's a million examples out there, but how you can learn a language in only 10 days. Again, if you're looking to learn a language, and you want to do it fast, well, that's certainly going to get your attention, right? And how is what's called a trigger word. Okay, it's one of those words that like how, like learn, like why, like what. Those are all words that get you to kind of pull you in. They trigger you to want to read the rest of it. Okay, shrink your fat zones, lose 7 pounds in 7 days. Again, if I want to lose weight, that has my attention. That has my attention. Now, whether I ultimately like the product, will be determined after I read the copy, but it's going to pull me in. 7 free apps that can make planning your next vacation easy. Again, very specific. If you're going on vacation, and you want it to be smooth and easy, well, you might be very interested in this. So it's very specific, very targeted, okay, to a specific group of people, and that's important. That's why you have to know who you're trying to reach and what drives them, what they want. All right. And I just want to throw this in there real quick for any of you SEO experts out there. Never let SEO ruin a good headline. All right, what do I mean by that? All right, there's some SEO, and I'm not going to get into a big SEO conversation here. I'm not even an SEO expert, far from it. And I'm not downplaying the importance of doing some good SEO work on your website, etc. But what I am saying, though, is I've seen people that try to, let's say, incorporate their keywords or into a headline, and it ruins the headline. So the bottom line is the headline is much more effective if it grabs someone's attention and leads them in so that they want to read more so than if Google likes it and people show up there, but then they read it and they don't go any further. So simple as that. All right. Here we go. We're going to get into some action steps, okay? I'm going to take a quick drink. Hey, if you have questions, send them in. Send them in. Michael, can you hear me? Are there any questions coming in yet?
I can hear you loud and clear. I was on mute before when you made the quip about your education levels, and so I decided the moment has gone, so I just left it. There are no questions coming in on the public chat right now. There was a couple that came in on private message, but yes, everybody, if you do have questions, please do enter them into the chat. It's the easiest way for us to see them.
And I hope I activated that. I don't know if you have the ability on your end to activate that. Again, folks, sorry for the technical problems, but anyway.
I don't know if I have or haven't. I know that there is the chat box is enabled, but I'm unable to see if people are able to do that. I imagine if the chat box is enabled, then they are good to be able to actually put things in there.
All right, well, groovy. Okay, we'll see how it goes. Because again, I don't want to keep belaboring it, but I am very sorry. I certainly didn't intend for these challenges to happen, but they did, and I'll iron them out. But let's keep moving. All right, so I want to jump into the 7 steps that improve your bottom line results within 30 days. Okay, and I truly believe it. If you follow this, you will see an improvement in your amount of leads, results, an improvement in the amount of people who sign up for your offerings, buy from you. All right, let's get number 1 right now. Get clear about why you are the one for your ideal prospects and clients. Obviously, you can't do that right now, but I'm giving you homework. It's important for you. If you aren't currently clear about this, you need to do it. It's really, really, really critical, okay? Why are you the one? Again, and it ties back into your story. It ties back into your interests, your quirks, what you stand for, the intersecting parts of your story. But you want to get clear about why your ideal prospects will choose you. Why do they pick you? Okay? Because you don't want to be the person picked because you're the cheapest. Okay? And you don't have to be. That's the good news. You don't have to be. People connect with you. They'll spend. Okay? So that's the first thing I want you to do. Okay? Second thing. I want you to write down the core drives or desires that your offer connects with, okay? So again, I'm going to give you the ability to have this information so you can go through those drives, those desires, and I want you to write down what you're currently, now if you have a bunch of different offers, then you can do this separately for each one of them, okay? But just write down where you are connecting with, what visceral core drives are you connecting with your offer. And then you might ask yourself, well, how can I connect with more? Because the more you can connect with, the better chance you have of moving that person to take the action you're looking for. Okay? Number 3, write down your prospect's 4 biggest objectives. I should have been objections. Sorry for the typo. Not objectives. Well, it's good to know their objectives too. But in this case, we want to know their 4 biggest objections and your counter benefits. Remember, every benefit should every objection they have, you should have a benefit that counters it. Okay, I want you to write down the 4 biggest ones. 4 biggest objections they will have to buying from you, and I want you to be clear about what the counter benefits are that you currently have. And if you know what, if you read one of the objections, you're like, wow, I really don't have a counter benefit for that, then you better create one, right? So, you know, figure out what you need to do to create a counter benefit to that objection. All right. Number 4. All right, this is where we're going to get into some real actionable stuff. Okay, I've given you some tools, and I want you to put them to use. Okay, I want you to create or redo your home page. All right, now I said earlier that, and again, I don't want to give you the impression I think there's a one formula that fits all kind of thing, because I don't believe that. But in general, I think most people overcomplicate their home pages. Okay, they have too many conflicting pieces of information. I mean, there's been studies that have shown even multiple images can conflict. So you don't want confliction on your homepage. You want it to be clear, concise. Again, like I said earlier, you have like 3 seconds, okay, to grab that person's attention and for them to make a decision. Remember, it's not necessarily to engage with you, but make a decision to either I have no interest in this person, or yes, I am interested and I want to take the next step. Okay, so I want you to go back through and go over your homepage, and I want you really to look at it. Okay, is there a clear message to your prospect, your ideal prospect, the person you want to attract? Is it clear to them when they show up at your page that you're for them? Okay, and do you have a clear call to action? Now, most oftentimes, that call to action is going to be on our homepage, is to sign up for a newsletter, or to get this free ebook, or to get this this resource checklist. Whatever your enticing, and I do want to underscore the word enticing, freebie is that your ideal prospect really wants. That's generally the action we want them to take. But again, don't have 3 or 4 actions you're asking for on a page, and don't overcomplicate it. I happen to like, and if you go to my homepage at davidjallen.com, you will see it's very much like a landing page, my homepage. I mean, there's not a lot there. Now, one of the newest trends that it really hasn't been happening long enough to really get any feedback as to how effective they are, but they certainly are visually appealing, and that is that when you land on this page created the way I'm about to explain, it looks like a landing page. Okay, you know where you are. There's usually a call to action above the fold, but then as you scroll down, it takes you through some different things, usually about that person and about their services, etc. Kind of like a scrolling page. There is a term for it, but it's escaping me at the moment. So anyway, I'm going to move on, but I want you to do that. Next thing I want you to do is I want you to create or redo your about page. Your about page is really, really important. Really important. Some people, I think, really minimize how important it is. Some of the biggest mistakes I see are really dry about pages that are like reading somebody's resume, or like like a typical bio. Okay, dry stuff, boring stuff. Remember conversational. Remember emotions. Remember stories where they intersect with the person you're trying to reach out to. Again, check out my about page. Another about page that I really love is Social Triggers from Derek Keltner. You go to his about page, and again, it's very interesting. It's very conversational. There's plenty of call to actions, and that was the next point I was going to make. You want a call to action on your about page. Okay, and again, it might be to sign up for your newsletter, it might be your super duper great freebie you're giving away. Whatever it is, you want a call to action on that page. So let people know who you're for to serve. Again, I talk about headlines. I think you should have a headline on your about page. Don't just say about Mary, or have a headline. Who are you for? Who are you here to serve? Get into it. Get into the story. Get into the benefits, and then deliver that call to action. Ask them to keep the relationship going with you. I want you to look at your about page. I want you to see the changes that you can make and do it. All right. Now create or redo your sales page. Now, sales page means a lot of things to me. Okay. But for you, more than likely, your sales page is going to be like your services page. So whether you have a program, whether you might have a physical product, a DVD or CD, whatever it is, too many times people just kind of throw a bunch of jumbled, these are my services on a page, and it's not interesting, it's not engaging, and so what I want you to do is I want you to go pick one of your products or services. Maybe you only have one service. It might be your time. Maybe you're a coach and you sell your time. You don't have anything else right now, and that's totally groovy. Use that, okay? But I want you to go through the process that I've laid out here and go ahead and create a page that leads them to want to take that next step with you, okay? And we don't have all the time to talk about the total sales funnel here, but I'm confident if you just follow what we've laid out here today, and you see how you can implement that on a page that asks them to engage with you with one of your services, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. All right, create an email campaign for one of your products or services. Now, again, you might have some of this going on already. Most people don't, and if they do, it's not very well thought out. And again, we don't, because of the time restrictions here, we don't have the time to go through everything that makes a great email campaign. If there's something you want to know more about, again, you have the box there where you can send questions in, comments. Do it. Let me know what you want to know more of, and I will be happy to create follow-up trainings that will dive deep into some of this stuff. But you have enough information to be better than most people out there. Okay, and by email campaign, I mean, again, let's say you have a program you developed. Okay, it helps non-for-profits, get more sponsorships. Okay, and you've got this program, and but nobody's buying it, or very few people are buying it. Well, I want you to create an email campaign that doesn't start with buy my program. Okay. It may start by just telling a story. The first email may tell a story about some of the challenges you had earlier in your career getting sponsorships, and and it may lead to a blog post that you did, or a link to a podcast that you created, or an article that you wrote. And start it like that, and then move through the process. You can even use the bridge formula and use each letter for each email. Cover each aspect of that as you move through it, okay? And then by the time you get to the end of your email campaign, and again, email campaigns can be 3 or 4 emails, and they can be 16, 17, 18 plus emails. So basically the length is whatever it takes to get the job done. Okay, but I want you to start considering about how you can put together an email campaign that you can implement with your list, where the people consume your information, that will lead them very, very thoughtfully, strategically, to want to buy from you, or to take another action you want them to take. Okay? All right, if you follow these steps and take the actions I've outlined, I'm confident that you will see results in 30 days or less. I am super confident. If you actually implement what we've gone over here today, that you will see results. And again, I want to know more about what you want to know more about. So absolutely let me know. Because here's the bottom line. I want you to fall in love with sales. I want you to embrace sales. As Daniel Pink says in his book, To Sell is Human, we are all in sales, okay? So it's time to start really embracing that. I know we've all had bad experience with salespeople, and some of us are really turned off by it. But you have to understand, if you're being fully self-expressed, which I have really made a point to talk about here today, then there's nothing fake about it. It's true. It's real. Okay, it's authentic. And if that's who you are, and you're delivering something that can really help people, then shame on you if you don't do it. Shame on you if you don't do everything you can to get your solutions in the hands of the people who need it. Okay? Now, do we have any questions? If I didn't mess up the console, hopefully some questions have come through. Michael, do we have any questions? Or I know we had some that came through earlier before we started.
Yeah, got a couple here. I just want to say, and because I have the ability on audio, just to say that thank you so much. You've just shared some enlightening and mind-blowing information that I think anybody would find useful, and I think the steps that you've taken people through there for the action steps will deliver those results. So just thank you, and great energy as always, especially given your headaches about an hour ago. So good job.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr.
So
Tro. I appreciate that.
I think a couple of questions that you were did come through were covered. I think that I picked up on one, and I don't know if everybody that's on this will know. Can you just explain what the fold is? You mentioned having the call to action above the fold.
Yeah, isn't it interesting sometimes how we throw around terminology and we don't always remember that it may not make sense to everybody? So yeah, good question. Basically, and I'm no techie, so Michael, if you need to dive in here and give a more technical explanation of what it is or description, but basically, when somebody types in your URL and they show up to your page, above the fold means what they see before they touch their mouse, before they arrow up or down, what appears on their screen without them having to take another action. And that's what that means. And you really want your call to action. And again, I know making blanket statements sometimes doesn't work for everybody, but for most people, I'm telling you, you want your call to action, whether it's to, sign up for your tantalizing goodie or whatever it may be, to be above the fold. Anything to add to that, Michael?
No, that was as technical as I think it needs to be. It doesn't need to be anything else, and there's a lot of good reasons for that. I do have another question that came through, and it's a twofer, so I'm going to break it down so not to confuse things. But do you believe that there is a different approach needed to copy depending on the medium that you are using?
That's a great question. Here's the thing. There are certainly people out there who will tell you that based upon the medium you're using, there are some
Maybe we should just explain medium. I'm sorry, David.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're saying, should we use a different strategy or different, for video as compared to written copy, as compared to a direct mail piece, something that people receive physically in the mail, as that's where you're going with this,
Correct.
right? So, here's the thing, and here's what I want everybody on this call, on this webinar to take away from this. The answer is yes and no. Okay, there are some areas where you may tweak based upon the medium. Okay, as an example, some products are just much better sold with long form copy, or I should say products or services. Okay, a lot of times that's tied to the dollar amount, not always. And some people say long copy is dead. By long copy, we mean just what it sounds like. There's a lot of copy there. You got to keep reading and reading and reading. But it's not dead, and it's very effective. But on the other hand, if you create a video of it, you want shorter, choppier pieces of information, because people, when they're seeing something visually and taking in the information, is processed a little differently than it is when they're sitting and reading long copy. But for the sake of the people who are on this webinar today, I want to tell you right now, don't worry about it. Okay? As you move through this process of becoming a better copywriter, as moving more people to make decisions in your business and buy from you, then and again, that's something actually we can get into maybe in another training. But to me, right now, all it will do is complicate things for you, because I know that if you've just followed what we laid out here, and you intuitively implement it in whatever medium you use, you'll get far better results than if you don't utilize this information at all. Okay, so does that answer the question?
I certainly believe so, and if anybody else needs further clarification, of course you can use the chat box, and I'm sure David will delve further into that. So, and the second part leads nicely into that. So, do you believe there is a word limit or a target amount of words, especially in the shorter copy you mentioned?
Well, again, it's interesting because there are certainly some studies out there that tie length of copy to the monetary request of your offer. It doesn't always work that way, though. I mean, but let's face it. As an example, if I'm asking you to grab my free report, I really don't need to use very many words. I mean, it's probably 200 words or less, probably a lot less. Okay, but if I'm asking you to invest with me at a level of $2,000, $5,000, whatever the number may be, at that point, what I need to do is I need to make sure that I really lay out, every objection, every counter benefit, and really go through them step by step by step. Because when I'm asking you to pick up my free report, I don't necessarily have to counter every objection that you have. Okay, I just have to kind of give you a good reason in that headline, and maybe subheadline, and maybe a couple of bullet points, and that's generally enough if I've targeted this correctly to your interests. But when you're talking about spending more money, people inherently that fear level goes up, right? We talked about fear, and therefore, because that fear level goes up, you really have to address their objections, and that's where the guarantee we talked about, the G in B.R.I.D.G.E, that's where you better have it in place. The only thing I have to guarantee you if you're getting my free report is that I'm not going to sell your name someplace. And that's basically as far, and you should guarantee that, by the way, but I don't really have to go farther or deeper than that. But, if I'm asking you to invest with me for thousands of dollars, then I better have a pretty darn good guarantee that you're not going to risk that money and that you're not going to risk looking like a fool, that if you don't like it, you can get out. You have a way out. How's that?
Very interesting. Very, very, very good indeed. Another question has come through. You're on quick fire around here, David. Another question has come through on the chat. So what are the do's and don'ts of subjects for emails?
That's good. That's good. And it's not, I can't just, again, make a blanket statement here, because if you actually follow the trends, which you probably don't, but as a copywriter, I do. I actually watch the trends with email subject lines. And by trends, I mean, there was a trend to use capitals a lot at one time. There's a more recent trend to use brackets around stuff. Or other symbols, the greater than or less than signs to attract attention. There's all these different trends that show up. Here's what I would say about it, because it's different for everybody. It depends upon your brand, okay? If you work with attorneys, and most of the people you work with don't have a tremendous sense of humor, then you may not want to, go overboard with cheesy jokes or comments. But on the other hand, if you are comfortable with the audience you're reaching, and you are fully expressed, and saying a distasteful thing, and by distasteful, again, it's a matter of perspective, right? It's different for everybody. Like, let's say cursing as an example. Okay, let's say your brand is, and your nature is, that every now and then you let out I won't say an F-bomb, but whatever, you curse. It's part of your brand. Okay, now naturally, see, what's good about that is, naturally you're going to attract the people that that's their thing. They like it, right? I have a client who actually, that's his thing. He curses a lot. I'm not endorsing it. I'm just saying that's his brand. So I think that you want to be clear, and it kind of goes back to being clear about who you are, what you stand for, what you want your brand to represent. And if you are in fact reaching out to people who are like you, and you have a connection point, then use the kind of conversation that is what will move them. Okay, move them to action. So as far as do's or don'ts, I would say early on in the subject line, get to, again, the big result you're delivering in this particular email, the pain they're dealing with, whatever that particular email is about, try to get to it pretty fast in the headline. But sometimes vague headlines work. So again, it depends upon your particular audience, and if that doesn't help you at all, then please type back in to the chat box, the question box, and try to give me a little bit more information about what industry you're in, and maybe we can dive a little deeper there.
Exactly, and if I may just add something, because do tell us again if you feel that if subject lines is not your exact question there, but there's a lot of myths around this, and this is something David and I have talked about in the past, and there's a lot of myths, especially from a spam filter perspective, and a lot of people worried about using certain words or using capitals and things like
Yep.
that that will mean that they're more likely to have their messages delivered to the spam or junk folder, and that is not true. Though it doesn't have that much of an impact. So using the word free, for example, is one of those big myths that needs to be expelled very quickly. Using the word free in your subject line will not automatically banish you to the spam box forever. So it's all about other things that we won't get into, but that is definitely not a don't. If you want to use, and as David's saying, if you were hosting a webinar, for example, if your first 2 words was going to be free webinar in your subject line, that would be a-okay.
Yeah, no, good point, Michael. Good point. I'm a little lazy with that because I use Infusionsoft, and they actually, and I know some of the other service providers do as well, but they have kind of that built-in little spam score they give you, so you can actually see, when you're treading on thin ice. But for the most part, we didn't talk much really. We didn't talk at all about hyperbole. And there's a line here, okay, and I think I'll take this a couple of seconds here to talk to that, speak to that. Because there is a line, and it's sometimes hard. It's blurry to see when you've crossed it. Okay, but we've all seen those super cheesy, usually internet marketing types of sales pages with the over-the-top headlines that you read and you just shake your head. Okay, those are people who read a little bit about copywriting and they dove into it, but they don't really understand what moves people. Okay, so, but, I want to be clear. I don't want you to tone down your excitement, and I don't want you to tone down what true deliverables you have in your business. Okay, so this isn't about, putting a muzzle on your offerings and how proud you are about them or how excited you are about them. You want that to show through. You want to be excited, and it should show in your headlines. It should show in your copy. Just don't cross the line where you're making promises that you really can't keep, and you can feel it in your gut. You're going over the top with what you're saying. Allow your gut to guide you. Talking about subject lines. I sent out an email today. Some of you may have gotten it. It said, "I can make you a better copywriter for free." That was the subject line. Pretty clear. If you're interested in knowing more about it. Then I was going to do my best to give you some valuable stuff for free, and again, it doesn't have to be any more clever than that. What else you got, Michael?
Absolutely. There was a question that actually came through earlier when I sent out a few emails, and this is from a mutual friend of ours, and he said, would you chuck this in, well, actually talking about people who curse in their brand, he said, would you chuck this in at the end, replace chuck for another word, to see if you can throw him off? And the question was, are you able to illustrate a headline that is, one, a content headline, and the converse headline if it was a copy headline?
You mean something you can use?
Well, if it was the same
article and
well, just what an example is of a copy or a content one, and what the difference would be. Well, if you want to take a minute to think about that, I would not blame you. But
I'll give you an example. And I'll use this in my own business. I mean, when I'm sending out, as an example, many times if I'm sending out a new podcast episode, I'll just send out, Amplified Expert Podcast number or whatever, and somebody's name. And you can argue there's a little bit like a headline in that I do put a couple of valuable words that might interest the reader. But that's very much a content headline. That is, basically, it's devoid of any of the typical sales structure that we talk about when we're talking about, making sure that we address a deep pain or a big result. Does that answer the question?
It does, and
I didn't understand it very well. If I didn't.
well, to be honest, I cheated because I was like, okay, you've got me stumped because I know the rules and everything else. But I did find an example, and I thought this was quite interesting, so I'd like to share it. And the example was the content headline would be apples identified to help prevent cancer, i.e., it's illustrating exactly what the article or the content is going to be about. So you right then go, I'm not interested in how apples are relevant to this. I'm not going to read that. Or excellent, that really interests me, so I'm going to read this. I know exactly what it's going to be about. And whereas the copy version was presumed to be delicious fruit proven to help prevent cancer. So curiosity helping you become more encouraged to read because you don't know what is coming. So
yeah, that is a very good point. And again, we couldn't cover everything today, but that brings up the hook part of this, and that is that it grabs the curiosity, which is one of the human core drivers, right? So that is actually a great example. I'm going to do it at great risk here. I'm actually going to get on camera, and I'm going to get out of this slide screen. So this ought to be interesting. All right. Am I on?
You are. Wow. You are live.
Yeah. Excuse my my office here because we just moved recently, and it is a wreck. So you see all kinds of stuff off in different corners here. But I wanted to get on because enough of looking at that slide. So
very good. We know there's questions. Another question has come in through the chat. In personal development, are there different ways to say things to get people to take action or make a purchase?
In personal development, say one more time for me.
So in personal development, which I imagine is the industry or what this person does, are there different ways to say things to get people to take action or make a purchase? So the key thing there being, are there different ways to say things specific to this industry?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, generally speaking, we're talking about an industry that has, again, certain hot button words, right? So when we're speaking to any industry, we need to know what their hot button words are. And the self-development industry is no different. I mean, they are going to have very specific language that they use that anyone who reads it will relate to, that will move them. Are we looking for specific examples? But I mean, the answer is absolutely yes. That the industry has very specific language, as every industry does. This actually brings up a good point, though, because there's a difference between using the language that a group uses and using too much jargon. Very, very important because, I mean, and again, we don't have time to get into it here because it's different for everybody, but let's say you have a service that you're reaching out to doctors, you're going to use enough of their jargon so that they get what you're talking about, the hot button words, and then whatever you're delivering to them, which solves a problem for them. But you're not going to go way over the top in sales copy with medical terminology, unless, again, a phrase or a couple of words are relevant to the specific offer. So you have to be really careful about that. Remember the 5th, 6th grade level. I want to show you my shirt here too, by the way. Here. Okay, I wore one of my favorite shirts for this today. Okay, so there we are.
It's almost like you're wearing the plaid jackets, but it's invisible.
Oh man, but no, great. I've appreciated. Now, what I've tried to do here is I'm trying to stick up the offers that should have went up before the freebie.
I can do that. I've found those in this.
Did you find those?
I can do.
See, folks,
I can.
It's really good when we're able to know what the heck we're doing here, right?
So you should see. That's the slides are up now.
Yeah, so you can download those. You can grab those. Just click on that, and you'll get the PDF of all everything we've gone over today. Um, so that's super cool. And then I will also put up here in a moment the Caladesi Island Simple Sales System infographic, so that you'll be able to see that as well. I think I'm only able to put one in at a time, but anyway,
And I
I
think
hope this. Go ahead, Michael.
no, I was just going to go back to that question, if that's okay, because
Yeah.
Jay's also has raised an interesting discussion, and to everybody else listening, we are at that time. So if you do have questions, feel free to add them. But obviously, we'll not be offended if you decide to sign off. But I have a sneaky suspicion that David and I could sit here for a while, even before tequila, the National Tequila Day is taken in. So, but the answers may get a little bit more convoluted. But to go on to what Jay was saying, I think when you're saying about are there different ways to say things to get people. So to me, when I read that, the people is the important thing. So I think when you're thinking about that and you're maybe concerned about what to say, it reverts straight back to exactly as what David was saying at the beginning of the presentation, the who. So, what resonates with one person is very different from another. So again, just think about who you are really wanting to target. Be narrow and as specific as you can possibly be, even if you think you're being too specific and you feel that you're maybe alienating yourself from some revenue opportunities. But trust us, and I'm going to say definitely trust David, but certainly if you were to be as narrow with who you're targeting, then you can resonate a lot more clearly, because it is likely they will have common needs and desires. So what you say would be relevant even more so.
That's a great point, and that is why. Thank you for bringing it up. That is why I spent so much time in this presentation today talking about emotions, talking about our minds, because just grabbing some templates and going to town with them, it means nothing if you don't get what it really takes to communicate with the people you're trying to reach. That's what's critical. That's what's important. This is at this point in this program today, this is where I was supposed to lay out the big offer and to come work with me and all that stuff. And I'll just say this: there is no big program or offer, but if you're interested in a real program, in a full A to Z program, let me know. Make a comment. And then I'll know that I should work on it and create an actual program to lead you through this path, and we can actually get into depth about each one of those pages and creating actual email campaigns and that sort of thing. I will just say this, that I currently have openings for one copywriting client. So if you decide you do want help with it, with a project that you're working on, by all means let me know. Send me a private message in the chat. You'll see a place where you can enter a question, and we'll connect and we'll see if it's a good fit. But no big no big offer. Sorry, that was it. I just wanted to really deliver some actionable content you can implement in your business and make a difference. So, Michael, do you have anything else, or are we about there?
I think we're about there, to be honest. There's lots of things I jotted down, but I don't know if I want to go over those or not, but I'm happy to. More questions rather than statements or hyperbole. But so I think it's up to you how you want to wrap this up, and if you wanted to give the audience one more chance to ask any questions.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Ask away. And Michael, go ahead, shoot for it. I mean, I've got nothing else going on, just tequila waiting for me.
Okay. Well, the 7 steps. I'm not on mute, am I? The 7 steps that you outlined at the end, the big ending point was to send out an email campaign. So, and we talked a little bit in this Q&A session about short, long copy, etc. But I was just curious if you could verbally make a statement as to what sections to put where. So when you're thinking about how am I going to construct this email, what would it look like? Not necessarily how many words and everything else, but just what sections where to cover what.
Well, I don't. That's good because you're right. Sometimes we will take that offer that we're extending and we'll move that up in different places in the copy, right? So sometimes we'll have a button that might be towards the beginning of the copy, and another one a little later. So you are right. You can move these pieces around a little bit. How much changes dramatically? What the question really is as far as I can see, is how much in depth in each of those areas we get. Again, if as an example, if I put out a new podcast, then I might touch on what issue this podcast is addressing. I might move into inspiring them through some bullet points of what they can expect. And then there's really no guarantee there other than whatever. I won't sell their house behind their back. So I would still go through that process. It's just a matter of how much time you want to spend. Again, the benefits are easy to lay out in bullets, right? That's what bullets are really geared for either laying out benefits or laying out content of a program. Is another thing you can do with them. So how long should your emails be? Great copywriters often say that your writing should be as long as is necessary, right? To get that person to take the action. Generally speaking, I try to keep emails pretty short, right? People want to move through them rapidly. So generally speaking, that's what I would do. Again, lead me if I should, if I'm not really answering. Or
that is very good. I actually did miss a question that I think is very pertinent. How do I know if I'm illustrating features rather than benefits? How do I know if I'm illustrating features rather than benefits?
Yeah, that's a great question. And features generally describe, like as an example, my program has 6 parts to it. Okay, that's a feature. It's I can send it to you in DVDs. Now that could potentially be a benefit, but generally speaking, that's a feature. Benefits are tied specifically to addressing objections, and there's emotional components to them. Okay, like with a car, you can tell me, it's got 8 cylinders. I don't know anything about cars, so I'm going to sound really ridiculous now. But you can tell me all the mechanics behind the car, but ultimately, what I might care about is that when I'm driving down the road and I can hit that gas and get the hell out of danger in a matter of seconds. That might be what's important to me. That's a benefit because I've got a family. I want to move. I want a vehicle that can move in and out and get out of danger quickly. So I only care about the features as to how they relate to the benefit.
That's absolutely perfect. You're quite right. I think a wiser man than I definitely wrote somewhere along the lines that if you're writing features, so if you've got a list of bullet points, for example, in your copy, and you're concerned as to whether that is a feature or a benefit, just read it to yourself, and if you end up saying to yourself, "So what?" I think you realize that's a feature rather than a benefit because you want to know what it means to you. What does it mean to me? That would be a benefit and that emotional level that David's talking about.
I'm so glad you brought it up because, like I said, there's so much to talk about, and I love using that question. You don't want your reader to say, "So what?" when they're reading your copy. That's a great point. I often remember to bring it up, and you brought it up, Michael, so thank you. But yeah, that's a great test to whether your copy is effective or not. If people are going through it, they're saying, "Well, so what? So what?" It generally means that you're speaking to your interests and you're speaking to features and you're not touching on the benefits that emotionally stirs them. Because if you are touching on the benefits that emotionally stirs them, they're not saying, "So what?"
Yeah, it's the, this car has, as you said, 8 cylinders. So what? What does that mean to me? It means you can get to where you want to go faster or look cool in front of your friends. That means something to me. It's like, okay, great, happy days. That's a benefit. So you're good to go from there. That really was the last question I had. I don't know how I missed that one, so I'm glad I found it in my notes. I should be better organized. I apologize, but that is everything for me.
Well, that's totally cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that offer. Hopefully everybody's grabbed it, the copywriting, the PDF of everything we've gone over. I'm going to remove it. And now I'm going to send out, if I do this right, well, you know, it's not even letting me click on it. So you know what?
I'll do it because I see. Yes, there you go.
Oh, okay, there it is. I don't know what that was all about, but anyway, there it is. So there is the Simple Sales System infographic, and so that's available if you would like to download that and go back through the bridge. You know, go back through those steps one by one. There's the infographic. Have it, enjoy it. I hope everyone got something really, really good and valuable out of this, and you know, I think I'm probably going to do this again because of all the technical challenges. So if you showed up, I'm grateful to you, and I'm very apologetic again that we had the problems that we had. Hopefully you've really gotten some value from this. And again, I will probably set this up to do it another time so I can work out the kinks here and not have the challenges that we've had. So again, folks, thank you so much. Michael Tro, you are a gentleman. You're a good friend. I appreciate you coming along and helping. And like I said, everybody, you need to go check him out if you don't know Michael. He's a very, very smart guy and can help you. He can help you sell some stuff. So that's the bottom line. Go check him out. And again, talk to everyone soon. Thanks.
Thank you, David.